Visionary Realms, the indie team behind Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, an MMO originally inspired by EverQuest and the vision set by Brad McQuaid, the man who has had the largest inspiration on the entire MMORPG genre than any other human in the history of mankind, has released their full information on the 247 mode and how it plays and what it all means. There is a ton of information here, including news that alpha pledgers will be able to play Pantheon soon and more. And we're going to be discussing the good news and the bad news. We'll be looking at this from both sides, and I'll give my final opinion on how I personally feel at the end. So make sure to watch the entire video. I do tend to be a generally positive guy about all things, but there are some dark corners to this story. But thankfully, there are also some bright, juicy parts too. So let's get into it. First, my name is Nathan. I cover MMOs and RPGs, so please hit that like button like it owes you money and subscribe for more. So, for the October newsletter, Visionary Realms breaks down what the 247 game mode is for Pantheon by explaining why it exists. And I quote, "We are at a point now where we need to run Pantheon in a persistent 24/7 environment to collect data and establish a continuous feedback cycle." And then they go on to mention that players can obviously consume content faster than they can make it, which is true for all MMOs, but even more true when you're an indie team. And the 247 mode was conceived to address this, a way to test Pantheon and test exactly what they want tested by giving the player quests that take them to a chunk or an area of the world and set them loose. Do the quest for rewards or run around and play and gather materials or do whatever you want. But you do have a time limit. Now, before this time limit runs out, you must make your way to a teleport area to get out and escape with everything you have found. Now, this mode comes in PvE or PvP options. So if you like PvP, go for that. But just know that if you die, you do drop your stuff you had on you when you entered. Even in PvE, I should mention, if you die, you're going to drop your stuff on your corpse. Now, your party members can grab your stuff and head for the teleport, bring it back to you. But if they don't, if it's just laying there, another player could scoop up your stuff. Now, let's discuss why Pantheon is doing this mode in this way in their own words. And I quote, "This play mode creates a sense of urgency and real danger." Now, the article goes on to say that the workload, or the content used for the 247 mode, is between 90 to 95% usable for the actual development of the world and the MMO that Pantheon is going to become. And that makes sense, since the only parts that are unique to this mode is realistically just the time limit. You're still going to be going out into actual zones or dungeons and areas they are creating for the MMO. These aren't areas or places or creatures that only exist in the 247. It's just teleporting you into specific areas in the MMO. So if you can bend your mind to understand that this is Pantheon Rise of the Fallen in smaller bite-sized chunks for testing purposes, and also to try to keep you interested so that you play more and don't get bored, which Visionary Realms believes is going to give a longer lasting appeal to keep people logging in and delivering the data they're asking for and testing out their new quests and their new creatures and their new areas, then it's, it can be packaged in a way, if you can think of it that way, that isn't too bad. They also said that by the end of the year here in 2023, they're going to be allowing alpha pledgers to have access to this 247 mode, allowing them to play and try Pantheon for the first time, and that is excellent news. For the thousands of people dying to get in and test out Pantheon, you should all be rejoicing, I believe. I mean, you get to play Pantheon. That's great. They also mentioned that this mode could be present in the final release as a battlegrounds type option for PvP. And before we get negative, this mode actually does live up to the vision of offering players a way to enjoy Pantheon in a 2-hour window for those with less time, as that actually was part of the original vision, but without clarification on how they would pull this off back then because they didn't know. They just wanted to offer Pantheon to be available for people, that have grown up, they got wives, lives, and children, and etc. Now, to put it simply, the 247 mode is a way to grab a quest for your group, get teleported into an area specific for that quest, which could be an open outside area or a dungeon, try to complete the quest to get out in time. Or you can ignore the quest completely and just explore, gather, craft, kill things, camp, explore, whatever you want to do, but you do have to make sure that you get out before the time limit is over in order to keep the things you found during that adventure. So look, we all like a full-size Snicker bar. This is like the, what they call the little fun, friendly size little bite thing, nugget, if you will. Still Snickers, right? It's just smaller, and maybe you'll still be a little hungry. Maybe you have to eat a few of them. So let's talk about the good before we get into the negativity. So, first, it's not the end of the world, like some YouTubers would have you believe. Everybody loves to go negative. Everybody loves it. It gets views. It gets clicks. Everybody loves to let's just stomp all over this. I see somebody down. Let's kick them as hard as we can. That's unfortunately the way the YouTube algorithm works. Of course, now you could argue that you don't want this game mode. That's justifiable. It makes sense. But it's not separate for Pantheon in a sense of development. And alpha pledgers finally getting to try Pantheon, even if it is in this particular mode, I think is going to squash most of the negativity. Especially if Pantheon opens up to streaming and content, lifting the NDA a little bit. And if you can get over the fact that other MMOs in the past have had other modes that ended in complete disaster, such as Landmark, Apocalypse for Ashes, Ragnarok for Camelot Unchained, if you can ignore all those, which were completely separate games, by the way, and realize that this 247 mode takes place in places that they are making for Pantheon, doing quests that are going to be in Pantheon, killing mobs that are going to be in Pantheon. It is the world, quests, and things from Pantheon in this 247 mode. And you are getting to experience it in a bite-sized chunk of how it will actually feel in an MMO, which means in a way you won't mind redoing this content later on as we move through different phases and get to launch, because it will feel different when you're doing it in an MMO environment. And you don't mind that it has a couple of rules, like the time limit. I think that's most people's concern. And of course, this death mechanic of dropping your things if you don't make it out in time. It's just really, overall, it's not that bad. And certainly, in my opinion, not worth burning the house down over. But there are some negatives. I can't ride this horse like it's made of gold without mentioning that overall, this still isn't likely to go over well with the existing community as a whole due to the horrible memories of failures that feel similar. Landmark, for example. And the fact that Pantheon has been our #1 hope for a new classically spirited MMO for so many years, and this game mode does not reflect that. And with all the changes we've seen lately, the feeling that Pantheon is headed into territory that we would rather not go is unmistakably present, and I am wringing my hands right along with you. I think the timing of this is more damning than the actual news itself. The change in art style recently, the refactors, the seemingly unending class revamps, the lack of substantial updates to new zones or dungeons, or any of the things that actually excite us for the future of Pantheon as an MMO, or make us feel like we're getting closer to launch, and then now this new mode as our big update. Pretty much the art style in this mode is our big updates for the entirety of 2023. Just doesn't feel right for a vision laid out by Brad McQuaid that didn't involve any of this at all. On the other hand, they are trying something new to keep player interest, and by the end of the year, more people have the chance to try out Pantheon as they open it up to alpha pledgers. So I think the real answer to how this all works out will come in time, but I do believe the communication of this mode was well laid out here in this newsletter, and that is a definite plus. There will be a Q&A this evening at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern on October 26th, and we'll get a chance to ask more questions on their Discord, which, by the way, I have a link to their Discord in the description down below if you want to join that tonight. Likely, I will be making another follow-up video after that with even more information. And now, let me discuss how I personally feel about all of this. In my opinion, it's not even that it's a bad idea. It's innovative and interesting, actually. As a streamer, I can see this as extremely fun to stream, giving a more hardcore coat of paint, which is extremely fun for viewers. Can we make it out in time with that epic drop? The timer is ticking and we are rushing for the exit kind of vibes. But as a lover of classically spirited MMOs, it's kind of meh. It's not exciting to see a feature like this in my MMO, and I just can't shake the feeling of dread that Pantheon is headed in a strange direction. And I think that's the feeling all of you are getting as well. Or that they think they can include multiple genres in one game with such a small indie team. Can we just get the vision that was laid out a long time ago? I hope we can. I really hope we can. As long as we get that vision, I'll be happy. But can that vision coexist with a mode like this? Does it taint the vision to have a mode like this in the product? I just wish I could still stand tall and proud that Brad's vision is moving along, and I really miss the days that I could do that. So although I don't think 247 is a doomsday event for Pantheon like many are claiming, and I can see some excitement in the concept, to be honest, I'm kind of looking over at Embers Adrift with a team less than half the size of Visionary Realms, and realizing that they have pulled off a real classically spirited MMO with fantastic updates in 1 year since release, moving closer to Brad's vision. A game he would certainly be playing if he were alive. And I just don't have to have Pantheon anymore. And that makes me extremely sad. Of course, I will be covering Pantheon. I will certainly be playing it, and I hope I get to stream it in the future. But until we get back to the juicy, nerdy, classic MMO stuff, I am moving one of my feet fully out, and my other foot is getting a little hesitant, but willing to see what happens. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And until next time, my friends, God bless and happy gaming. I want to give a very special thank you to the members of Napalm for your contributions month over month in keeping me full-time. You help me pay the bills so I can keep streaming and pumping out content, and I truly appreciate all of you. Thank you so much, and I think you might be interested in becoming a member of the channel. Please click the join button down below the video for more information and join our family. And I want to give an extremely big shout out to the Lords of Napalm: Bounty Code, Jared Woodhouse, Dimeblows, Sparrow, Random Rob, Rodney Mom, Gallery Moonsong, What's the Takeaway, Bad Wolf Gaming, Cobalt, William Long, Ohalo, and Robert Daneka. Thank you for your highest tier membership.